and welcome to my channel. Before I started to color this year Easter pictures, I decided to look back at the pictures which I have finished during previous years. And honestly, I was surprised that actually I have only few finished Easter pictures, while comparing to the total amount of my colored pages. I know that during my first years of coloring I had only a couple of Easter pictures in all my available books, and during my first year I did Easter page in Sweet Chappé. It's a grayscale book which I mostly colored with watercolor underpaint and then with water-soluble pencils like Coffin or Mondeluz. And I remember that I wanted to do something for Easter, and this one was my one and only available page. Here, fortunately, I managed to color it with a lot of watercolors, all shades of ochre, burnt sienna, amber, burnt amber, Van Dyke brown, which I had in my watercolor set. They helped me to create various shades of chocolate on the probably gingerbread here, huge chocolate egg here, all those chocolate bunnies, and then even Easter eggs here I did with various shades of pastel colors. So it was my first finished Easter page, and even if for Easter page probably it has too much black areas, too many dark shades, so still I remember that I was happy to find at least one Easter serum picture because I really was limited in my choice. Then for a couple of years my one and only book with something which can be related to Easter was Sagar och Sagner by Emily Lindehol Oberg. Here I started from not very successful page, from those very cute birds. Of course, I really liked this cup. I do love the whole composition, a very spring spirit, and also quite suitable for Easter because of the eggs which I did in this pastel colors. But here I totally ruined the background. I had quite a limited amount of art supplies at the time, so here I tried to do background with my couple of available gouache colors, but I didn't know how to go around the intricate image because I colored the central image first, and then it was difficult in the same time to do smooth gradient from darker to slightly less intense blue and to go around the main image, so brush strokes are visible. I didn't color all areas accurately, and when I realized that my background totally doesn't match the style of the picture because here everything colored in more accurate way and background looked, well, not very well. I tried to also to add some stencils with texture of bricks with white paint, some white spots around the branch. Well, now it looks better, but still I remember that it was one of the reasons why now I prefer to start doing my pictures from the background. Because when you color the main image, you like it, and on the last step you add not very successful background, you mess up with the whole picture. Not very pleasant experience, definitely. So that's why now I prefer to do my struggle with the background first and then to enjoy doing the rest of the page. After that, next year I did maybe not completely Easter, but my one and only available page with X. I remember that I checked all my books, and apart from Seasons in Hannah Carson, that was one and only available. Seasons colored everyone that year, so I didn't want to color two couple tiny chickens and eggs were broken on the page, so instead I decided to do this one. It's lovely. Here I used one of my favorite tricks. I used matte paint first, and then on top of it I sprinkled metal and pearlescent paint, so background is quite nice. I really prefer all pictures in this book with this solid, plain, intense color of the background. I did many of them in such style, but here I also combined various paint textures. So this one, it was okay, but as I said, I don't know if we can call it Easter or no, but I remember that I did it during Easter time, maybe because of the eggs. And finally, my Easter page, which also wasn't very successful in this book, it was this poor bunny. Of course, here there are elements which were easier for me to color, like crocuses, or their muscari hyacinths, and even tulips. But then started again this problem of the background. Here I did more successful gradient from a lighter to darker green, but still blending is far from perfect, especially here in this area where again you need to go around leaves. Well, bunny look a little bit, well, let's he has something slightly crazy in his eyes, but still it's not so bad. At least it was one of my attempts to do fur, and fur isn't bad, even if it's not very visible, this fur texture, but I tried to do both gray and brown areas. I masked lines which I didn't like a lot here on the forehead, for example. So bunny, it's not so bad. If you ask me why on the last step I decided to add this something similar to the egg, and especially why it has such a shape, totally not symmetrical, very clumsy, I don't have any reasonable answer why I messed up on the last step with this strange egg which I added. Maybe because this area looked empty, I don't know. This not very good cover of the background where brush strokes still were visible. I think that I used acrylic paint, not gouache but acrylic paint. I tried to mask with these strange bubbles in which I filled in with pastel colors. They help to mask not very attractive areas a little bit, but they simply look a little bit silly. So some of the areas here are good. I do love this flower composition and eggs, but some of the areas, well, at least I remember them with laughing how I did it and how I messed up. Now we go to the more successful pictures. The next one, when I got Botanicum, I immediately noticed for myself similar page to the previous one. Again bunny, again crocuses, and again eggs. This time I used for the background water-soluble and water-soluble graphite pencils. So various shades from very light to more dark gray-green colors. So background maybe again not very accurate, but at least it didn't look so unattractive as on the previous page. But again, many areas where I had stains I didn't like, so again I added those white spots, something like bokeh background. It helped to mask not very successful background, and it added some lightness to the whole page. Here everything was okay, leaves, flowers. I do love this color combo of violet crocuses and yellow spring flowers. I deliberately selected this very bright non-photo blue for the eggs. I think that it helped them to be the focal point of the composition, and I definitely like bunny here. So background is so-so, but picture I do love, and I think that bunny is lovely and fur is awesome. It looks in the same time like bunny made from chocolate, you know, that in golden foil, and in the same time like a real bunny with fur, so especially with this pink bow. This page I do love. I also added tiny white flowers here to support these white dots and to make the whole composition less childish and more realistic. I do love to add small details. I added branches here. If you are interested, I think that it's available on my channel. I will leave you a link in the end of the video. But for the background I used Derwent graphitins and aqua blend pencils, but it was just a couple of shades of very light green. I think that similar colors are available in all sets. Oh well, actually this one is not bad. Maybe I can do this one, but again, the problem of the empty background, traditional problem of Maria Trolle, I don't know. And finally, we have pictures which I love much more. The first one is in Kolorowanka Rhapsody, colored completely with Prismacolor pencils, and I think that it's nice. When I did this one, and it was long time ago, but I still like it, I didn't mask black lines, mostly because I had only white gel pen, white Posca, so I didn't outline all those eggs, but I still think that elements look quite okay. Again, I will leave you a link to this one. There I tried to show how I colored all those tiny fluffy chickens, how I did hyacinths, muscari flowers, and how I colored eggs. As usual, when I have many similar items on the page, like many eggs, I try to divide them into several color palettes, so I have some more bright magenta red colors, couple of orange eggs, then couple of blue eggs, and it helps me to get more well-balanced color composition on the whole page. I'm glad that I did a very light, not very distracting background, just a little bit of Kelly green and pale sage shading, simply because I didn't want my chickens to be hanging in the air, so I put a little bit of color beneath their tiny legs, maybe like they are standing on the grass. So this one I definitely love. And finally, my last finished Easter page, it's here in Romantic Country's second tale. Oh well, of course I used a lot of Prismacolor pencils here, especially for the tree. My main idea was to try and to show rays of sunshine coming through the window in this diagonal direction, and I tried to show them a little bit of yellow highlights on the surface of the glass window, and then going through it and even making reflections and highlights on the surface of the table standing near the window. Some areas I managed to show this sunshine, somewhere I could use stronger contrast, especially I don't like contrast here on the curtains. But still, the whole page I do love. It was fun again to think how to color such a huge amount of eggs. So I decided that some of them will be like unwrapped chocolate eggs, and the rest I colored in different shades of gold and all my favorite pastel colors: lilac, lavender, magenta, process red, hot pink. So I think that it's not bad. Maybe I had to do darker background because these light green areas, they are slightly distracting attention from all those eggs hanging in front of the wall. Maybe dark background would help all eggs to pop up better, but in the same time I think that it also gives some spring spirit. Very pleasant Kelly green color. I love it for the spring pictures, for the spring leaves, spring grass, when everything is still very fresh. So that's probably why I selected it for the wallpapers. Anyway, it was complicated but pleasant coloring, and I am glad that I finished such a complicated page. And I think that this effect of sunshine, where eggs were highlighted from one side and shadowed on the other side, I managed managed to do almost exactly like I imagined it in my head, and it was important for me trying to make it like when I finished to film video about all my finished Easter pictures, I suddenly realized that I missed one more. Last year, during the first Easter after the beginning of the war, I didn't have all my books. I was outside my house, but I had with me this goddess's book. And here we have beautiful portrait of Eostre. She is goddess which, according to one of the legends, gave her name to the future Easter holiday. And here we have many symbols, many elements which we usually connect to the Easter pictures. Here we have this basket with eggs, with bunnies, and we have a lot of spring flowers. So this one I did last year. Well, it was challenging because you know how thin and actually bad is the paper in Coco Vaio. So I managed to do the main image. I think that it was mostly polychromos pencils, maybe also a couple of Prismacolors. I can definitely recognize them at least on the eggs and probably on the daffodils also. But the biggest problem was how to do the background. I tried to do it as best as possible with pencils, but well, blending here is complicated. To mask some of the areas which I didn't like, through the stencil I added those pale green spots, so it looks like fake bokeh. It's quite helpful method to mask areas of the background if your blending, if your gradient is far from perfect. But main image I absolutely love, her hair, very bright green color of her dress, and of course it was a pleasure to color all her flowers. If you need it, I will put a link to this video in the end. Well, now finally, that's definitely all my finished pictures with some of the Easter elements. Yes, there are only few, but I hope that this year I will add more, and I hope that you also have nice plans to color something beautiful for this Easter. Have happy holidays, and I hope to see you very soon.